Hey everyone, it's Marshy. You know, I love 3D, but screw the glasses. The Nintendo 3DS. It's my favorite handheld game console of all time that's called the Nintendo 3DS. I mean, it's a Nintendo handheld. I'm a big Nintendo fan. Of course I liked it. But one thing I really liked when I first got it is the 2D screen. And then 2 seconds later, I turned the 3D slider back down because it hurts my eyes. To be fair, back when the 3DS first came out, 3D was extremely popular. And by that, I mean people went to see a few 3D movies and companies tried making 3D televisions. Of course, they failed miserably and nobody bought them. But there is one 3D device that many people love, the Nintendo 3DS. So let's dive into the history of this Nintendo handheld. The year is 2009. The Nintendo DS was probably at its peak. It had 2 revisions, the DS Lite and the DSi. Plus, if you were an insane criminal who hates happiness, you could get the original DS model. Plus, it had some amazing games like New Super Mario Bros., Super Mario 64 DS, and Pac-Pix. But one problem is that the DS was 5 years old at this point, and the graphics hadn't really aged well. I mean, if you told younger me without internet that the DS and the Wii were out at the same time, I'd sue you for deception. People really wanted a new Nintendo handheld, so one day Satoru Iwata made a statement during an interview saying that the next handheld would have better graphics and it would sense your movement. This may not seem like much, but keep in mind, this is Nintendo we're talking about. They don't even like sharing if their offices have a janitor. Do they have a janitor? Nintendo then barged in and retconned the interview just like the Star Wars prequels did to the original. They claimed that Satoru Iwata was misinterpreted. What are you talking about? Eventually, in early 2010, people began to get hyped after Nintendo filed patents that hinted toward the DS2. According to those patents, the Nintendo DS's successor would have different cartridges. They were sort of right and sort of wrong. They were the same cartridges, but big. Satoru Iwata was questioned about 3D gaming, and his response was basically, screw the glasses! Eventually, someone decided to snoop around at the Game Developers Conference that year to see if they could find anything related to the 3DS. They found something, and according to them, it was going to be more powerful than the DS. Shut up, no way! People asked game developers what they wanted for this supposed DS2, and one of them said they wanted 3G and a GPS. Oh yeah, a data plan would be great to play Animal Crossing. But come on, the DS was so popular and they just released the DSi XL. There's no way Nintendo would release a new handheld now of all times. Nintendo, I don't understand you sometimes. 3DS's main feature was its glasses-free 3D screen. Try saying that 10 times fast. So yes, instead of releasing a Nintendo DS2, they released a DS3. First Windows and Apple skipped 9, and now Nintendo skips 2. What's next? Oh, never mind, they released the DS2 later. The 3DS would be backwards compatible with DS games, obviously. Oh, and EA said it was cool! No way, it's cool? Impossible. It can't be cool. Can it? I don't believe it. I think it's cool. No way, no way. We got the thing EA said was cool. Oh, the 3D effect isn't that cool. Oh, come on. There was a rumor going around that Nvidia was supplying the Tegra chip for the 3DS. People asked developers about the 3DS, and they said that it was just as powerful as a Wii and could have games run as good as the Xbox 360. This thing barely looks as good as the DS when it's playing Animal Crossing. Are you seriously telling me it can be as good as the Wii? I swear, people with Photoshop and people who spoke English had a field day spreading rumors and concept art about the new 3DS. According to news sites, the 3DS would release in every month of 2010. Shigeru Miyamoto teased the possibility of Super Mario World being on the 3DS, and I have no idea what he meant by that. The OG game? A remake? The original game with better graphics? What did he mean? The 3DS ended up launching on March 25th, 2011 to an overwhelming, huge, amazing response of, EA wasn't wrong about it being slightly cool, I guess. Honestly, the only first-party launch title of the 3DS I care about is Nintendogs plus Cats. Keep in mind, Nintendo made games like Super Mario Galaxy. At least at one point, Nintendo remembered that they want the 3DS to sell well, so it got some great games like Ocarina of Time 3D, Majora's Mask 3D, Super Mario 3D Land, Land, Animal Crossing New Leaf, and Irrelevant. One thing people didn't like about the 3DS was the huge price of the system, so Nintendo responded by cutting the price from $250 to $170, and 20 NES and Game Boy Advance games would be given to people who bought the 3DS before the price cut for free. But there was one big threat for the 3DS, the PlayStation Vita, Sony's new handheld video game console. Basically, people thought that since the Vita had a second circle pad, the 3DS would flop. So Nintendo released the 3DS Circle Pad Pro to shut everyone up. It was barely supported, and nobody bought it. People still thought the Vita would win the war. Yeah, that aged well. Then, one day, there was a rumor of a new version of the 3DS releasing, called the 3DS XL. Nintendo said it was false, then they revealed it a few weeks later. Of course, there was also the Nintendo 2DS I mentioned before, which was basically a poor man's 3DS. There were some leaks for games like Pokemon Sun and Moon, but I'm not a huge Pokemon guy, so I don't really care. And then there were the two last 3DS models, the new 3DS XL and the new 2DS XL, or as I like to call them, pointless. And finally, on October 20th, 2016, the Nintendo Switch was announced. This wasn't the end of the 3DS, but it was the beginning of the end. Apparently the 3DS was planned to have a successor, and that might have been the Nintendo Switch Lite, but I'm not so sure. According to Shigeru Miyamoto, the 3DS was originally going to have a GPS. Dang it! Animal Crossing is literally unplayable without that! And that brings us to the end of the 3DS. It was pretty good. It had some okay games, but I honestly prefer the Switch, and oh my god, that fire's still going on. I gotta put that out. Goodbye, guys.